Hello and welcome to Square Raindrop. I'm Jo Wheeler.
And I'm Steph Golter.
Well, Steph, what about the weekend? Were you out and about?
Well, we went off to Longleat on Sunday and I am so glad it wasn't raining. It just makes it far more miserable if it was. I mean, the queues are crazy, even at this time of year. I wouldn't like to say there was a lot of traffic on the safari, but I fell asleep in the lion enclosure.
That's not a good place to fall asleep, to be honest.
Fortunately, I wasn't driving.
Even better. And the trip back, how was that?
Well, it could have been better. So my other half was like, Steph, the football's on. Can you drive home? I was like, yeah, no trouble. Absolutely fine. No problem. Except I really regretted saying yes, because as soon as we left Longleat, it started getting a bit misty and then a bit more misty and then foggy. And all the way home was me squinting, trying to see the car in front, trying to see the cat's eyes. It was fogtastic.
About to really depress my children who always accuse me of being a walking A to Z. Is that the A303?
It is actually, Jo. Yeah, well done.
Close to Stonehenge. It is often misty there. I know that road very, very well. Yeah, often a lot of mist around. Well, I have to say, I was out and about both on Saturday and on Sunday. But the good news is the rain came through overnight, so we missed it on both occasions. And whilst I won't say it was incredibly sunny or incredibly warm, but it was at least dry.
I was just happy that it wasn't raining on me. I'd take anything. The last week, Jo, has been absolutely miserable.
It's not been good. It's been one weather front after another coming from the Atlantic.
And I've been watching all these pictures of Qatar, where obviously I used to live, thinking, why did I move back? Why?
Well, do you know something? I'm not a great sports fan, it has to be said, but I have watched a couple of things from Qatar and it looks extremely hot. Now, when we first spoke about the forecast for, is it the World Cup? For the World Cup, yeah, for the World Cup, yeah. We were slightly concerned about a drop in temperature that might bring a windstorm, a dust storm. Yeah, how are things looking now?
Well, it is quite windy today. There's a small chance that we're going to have visibility reduced. What you'll notice if you ever go to Doha is the sky is rarely bright blue. It's often got a lot of sand and haze mixed in it. So it's kind of like a yellowy, bluey kind of colour. It's likely to be quite yellow today, but then the next few days, the winds are supposed to ease off a little bit. But the winds do come more from the easterly during the evening and overnight. Normally they come down from the northwest, which is a direction where they bring quite dry air, often with a lot of dust in. But if they come from the east, that drags in humidity. So there's the chance that we could see a little bit of maybe mist or fog overnight.
Talking of easterlies and mist and fog, are we not in for more of the same?
Well, I'm just pleased it stopped raining, Jo. I'll take fog. I don't mind as long as it's not raining constantly.
You can
say
that.
Where you are at the moment?
I was going to say I'm out on the East Coast and it is pretty misty and murky today. I must admit, because for all sorts of reasons, I've reached a spell in my life where I don't have to be bouncing out of bed at o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And so it's quite nice when it is a little bit dull or a little bit grey that you're not getting this bright sunlight that says, get up, get up, get up. Now I've got a dog to do that instead. He wakes me at like 3-4 o'clock. He wants to go outside. But this greyness means that, I just don't have that, huge impetus to hit the ground running. So I'm not minding too much. So yes, you're right. But you know something, how they often say that weather forecasters use seaweed to do the forecasting, which is rubbish, obviously. But sorry, I have forecasting hair. So I've been out in the fog this morning and just got a complete fog head. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's just complete frizz going on here. And I can't be bothered doing anything because it'll just end up the same as soon as I walk outside again. But we're going to see a bit of a change in the weather, aren't we? Because there is one more Atlantic system kind of knocking on our door going into Tuesday. And it sort of gets a bit repelled, sent back, returned to the corner.
That's right. So we end up being in a little bit of a dry spell. Like, thank goodness for that. But it does mean because the winds are light and there's just so much moisture around, we are going to have quite a few more foggy days. So today here, beautiful blue sky, it's lovely. But I have a feeling that's not going to last. And you've certainly had that fog today.
Yep, absolutely.
Although it's sunny in the background now, Jo, where you are.
I can promise you it's not. I must have some clever lighting somewhere. But also, you know, as soon as we pick up this easterly flow, everybody starts going, beast from the east. Were you actually in the UK when we had the first beast from the east?
The beast from the east. Remind me, what year was that?
That was actually 2018, I think. Was that before you came back from Doha?
Yeah, we came back in 2019, so we missed it. Phew, I'm not good with cold weather.
Well, this was really quite spectacular. So I have to say, first and foremost, I live in Lincolnshire. It's very flat, and it's also on the East Coast. And so these were classic snow conditions for this part of the world, that we had a big Scandi high. So obviously the wind's coming around it, a long sea track across the North Sea, and then it just dumped this snow. And I can't quite remember the actual details of why the snow was so different from other years. It was a very dry snow. So we have a kind of a formula where we can look at the amount of rainfall expected. And if you translate that into snow, we can say, oh, you know, 3 to 5 centimeters or 10 to 20 or whatever it may be. But on this occasion, that formula did not work. And so it dumped all this snow, and my children were delighted to have a snow day, and we went out walking in the snow. And after the initial snowfall, it was absolutely beautiful, you know, bright blue skies. And that afternoon, I made the rash and, with hindsight, stupid decision to go up to town because I needed some batteries for something. I think my bin, which opens automatically, which is very exciting.
Such a first world problem.
Can't do without it. I'm thinking, well, the road outside my house, which is a country road, relatively clear, and I'm only about 30 seconds from the main road. So I was thinking, okay, this will be good. So I set off in this blue sky. It was absolutely fabulous. I got to the end of the road, turned left, driving along, and I hadn't gone very far. I mean, I probably wasn't more than a minute and a half from home, and suddenly there was this howl, and everything went to whiteout, complete whiteout.
Oh, no.
I could not see anything. I could not see the front of the car. I could not see through the back of the car. And I came to a standstill. And within about 20 seconds, I was in a snowdrift and I couldn't go any further. Right?
Oh, no.
This car had stopped behind me. I could see these flashing hazard lights. So I got out of the car, fought the wind, went to him and said, listen, I'm stuck. You go past if you can. Yeah. So he went past me. So did a van, which then skidded and hit me with its wing mirror. And I got in the car thinking, gosh, I'm going to die here. Yeah, you know, this is horrendous. And still I couldn't see anything. Then there's a knock on my window, and this guy says to me, you know, there's this scream of wind again as I put the window down. Only you don't actually wind them down these days. You just press
No, that's fine. Nobody...
Stress has thrown me into throwback there. Anyway, so he goes, I've got a spade. He goes, don't stop. He said, as soon as you make traction on the road, you start going. So he's digging frantically. I didn't run him over. I did make traction, and I got about a half mile down the road and managed to turn off left. I mean, it was the most terrifying drive because I could not see anything at all. Turned off the road, blue skies. And what had happened was this really fine snow had fallen, and it was, you know, I'd been out walking it in the morning, so it was kind of almost up to your knee. But then when the wind blew over flat land, it just picked it up and dumped it on the road. And I think about 52 cars got stuck on that stretch of road that day.
Oh my goodness.
And the tractors were out pulling people out. So the beast from the east, you know, you can understand why the public are kind of going, hang on a second, easterly flow, gosh, is this another beast from the east? But right,
I don't want another one of those, Joe. That sounds horrible.
No, it's all right. I've changed the car since. Something more Lincolnshire friendly. But no, yes, or a tractor. Doesn't get me to London very quick, but do you know what? It's reliable. So anyway, yes, we're going to this easterly flow, which initially is going to give us a bit of a slack area. So this mist and fog issue, we'll see quite a drop in temperatures as well, won't we?
Yeah, it won't be as warm as it has been, but it's not going to be beast from the east type territory. It's just going to get back to kind of like roughly where we should be at this time of year, maybe a little bit below, but it's not going to be, oh dear, brass monkey weather.
But I did notice in the news this morning, the first long-term forecast of will we have a white Christmas? And how many times have we been asked that question?
Oh.
Not in Doha. Well, it does look as though things are going to stay fairly calm and settled into the beginning mid-December, with temperatures a little below normal for the time of year. So a colder, more settled period, but we've yet to see whether we'll get any snow out of it.
Never. This is my tip. Never believe a long range forecast. I see it as like, what we think might happen. That's how I see them. But never hang your hat on them.
No, no.
Too much uncertainty. I mean, the weather is a beautiful thing, and this is why I love it. There's so much science in there, and there's so much involved stuff going on, and we just don't know it all yet. And that's what makes it interesting. But it does mean when it comes to long range, there's a lot that can go wrong.
Oh, absolutely. And we're in Ireland, you know, I mean, it's all very well doing long-term forecasts for, you know, large bodies of land like Europe or America, say, you know, where you've got all this landmass and you know, in Britain, we've actually got a huge disparity in temperature north to south and weather east to west, because we've got, you know, high ground running through the spine of the country and over much of Scotland. So, I mean, this is why the weather is a British obsession, because, you know, we can be talking about one part of the country and it's entirely different to another. Me here in the east, you there in the south, we've got a very different day today.
Too right. We've got a lovely day, but I don't bank on it for tomorrow. And if
No.
it didn't change all the time, there'd be no fun.
No, exactly. Well, we wouldn't be talking about it, would we? We have had some lovely comments on our Square Raindrop videos. We do try to put them out. Well, we'll give you information on Twitter. They are basically on YouTube. And certainly one of those comments mentioned the fact that we should be talking about, you know, climate change and environmental issues, which we do actually intend to do, don't we?
We will. Probably the issue at the moment is that we're both very weather obsessed because we love weather. But yes, it is something we will branch out to do. But at the moment, it's just, hi, Joe, let me tell you about what the weather's been doing around where I am. And Joe's the only person that's interested.
Did you know something? First thing in the morning,
like, oh, not again.
Even if I wake up in the night, I'm scanning the weather going, oh, look at that. How interesting. Every single tab on my computer has got, you know, a bit of weather. I'm thinking, oh, that's interesting. So yes, anything anybody would like to know, would like explaining, you know, do just message us. It's at Square Raindrop. Go on.
Yes, it's Square Raindrop, but Square didn't fit. So it's at SQ Raindrop.
Wonderful. And we'll be back very shortly with certainly a weather update and whatever other exciting things we can find to tell you.